Hey, this is Melanie. Welcome to my process video for Bramble Fox. Today I'm going to be using this September Fox Box Plus subscription. And I'm also going to be using a die in the set as well. So here's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using the Priceless Moments Perspective. I'm going to be using the Fox die number 4, which is that one, and the Fox stencil number 41. That's the stencil I'm using there, and that is included in this month's subscription box. I'm going to start out using the stencil on some PinkFresh Happy Hearts collection. This is a piece that has a wreath, about 3/4 of a circle of a wreath, and I'm going to be using the stencil with some scattered straw, very, very lightly. I do not want a dark color. I want it very subtle. So I'm going to start using the scattered straw, and then I'm going to offset it just a little bit and grab some bundled sage. I'm going to add some bundled sage even lighter than I did the scattered straw, just to give it some color behind where my photo is going to go. And again, I'm using the September Fox Box Plus, and the paper collection I'm using is PinkFresh's Happy Hearts. I start out here adding some water on top of the Distress Oxides, just to help release some of the oxide, just to give it more of a distressed look. And I start out using one color of some gold spray, but it was just really too light. So after I did it and started looking at it, I said, that's not going to work. So then I pull out my old faithful, I hate I'm going to run out of it, Heidi Swapp Color Shine. And it is a much more brilliant gold, and I love it. And I'm so sad she doesn't make it anymore. You're going to also see, so I'm splattering the whole page, but what I have done off camera is I took that same piece of paper that I'm using on a blank sheet of it, and I fussy cut out that wreath, which is right there, and I'm going to layer it on top of the pattern piece with the wreath as well. I'm adding some of the color shine here, and I just I roll over it a little bit with my paper towels, and I also hit it with the dryer. So here, that's the picture I'm using. And this is a picture of my daughter with my dad 2 years ago. My dad was diagnosed with COVID in August of 2020, and he passed away very shortly after being diagnosed. And my daughter had just gotten to town to his house with me to see him. And he woke up after days of being asleep and sat and visited with her for, I bet, 6 hours before he passed away. It was beautiful. So I wanted to remember that beautiful moment between the two of them. They had a wonderful relationship. Here I am taking the wreath that I fussy cut, and I'm just kind of offsetting it onto the wreath that was on the page. And I'm trying to decide if I want my picture to go under or over. I did use foam tape to pop that second wreath on top. I end up deciding it's going to go on top of the wreath because I couldn't tuck it in. And I'm going to put some foam tape on that and put that down there. Now I'm going to take this, I think I'm going to call it a trellis, y'all. I don't really know what to call that design. I'm going to call it a trellis. It's very dainty die cut that I used off of die cut number 4, the Fox die number 4. And I cut 2 of them, and I'm going to cut them in half and just kind of put them just around the right side and the top of my photo, just for some more dimension and just something to look at. I don't know what word I'm trying to say. So I'm going to add that in there. I'm going to trim off the edges where I cut them in half. It had a couple of little rough edges, so I'm just going to trim those off so it looks more finished. And I think this may become my new favorite die for a while. I cut about, I don't know, 8 or 10 sets of the leaves that we'll use in a minute. I pull out these cardstock frames that are in the PinkFresh Happy Hearts collection, and I just cutting them in half, and I'm just going to put them all around the right side all the way to the top of the left side of the wreath, following around in the heart-shaped circle. Not heart-shaped, wreath, the circle of the wreath, following it around. I don't know where that word came from. And some of these that I'm using has some gold accents on them, so I really like that to go along with the gold splatters that I used. So I'm just going to start tucking them, and I don't know how many I cut. I have 2 sets of this. I don't know how I ended up with 2 sets of them. One might have came in a hip kit, and then I ordered some. I don't know. But I love the frame, so I probably could have put a whole one under there, but they really don't fit that well if you're tucking them. So tucking them worked out just fine. I do put one at the bottom under the picture that says together, and then one right next to it that says this is us, which I thought was really beautiful for this picture and for their relationship. These two had the most beautiful, sassy, loving, full of mischief relationship. So I have a few more little frames to tuck around there, and I do layer some of the frames as they go in a circle on top of each other, and they're thin, so it doesn't add a lot of bulk. Now, just about done with those. I do off camera add some gold puffy hearts from some Ellie's, one of my Ellie's puffy sticker sheets. It's the Ellie's Tiny Shapes and Dots, and you won't see me put those on. I add those off camera because I was like, it needed just something else. And I added my journaling off camera because nobody needs to have to watch anybody journal. Here I'm adding the Foxbox Plus perspective for this month, called in the set, it's called Priceless Moment, and it is beautiful. At first I thought it was a kind of a grayish color until I got it next to this paper that had this greenish teal. It's not really teal, but it picks up the color of my paper so nice. So it was perfect for everything. Remember, when you're putting these perspectives down, that there's a tiny film on them usually just to protect them, and just pull that little film off and put them down with some wet glue. I put them down with wet glue on the left hand side and pop dots under the right side because it would have been uneven. I just added the pop dots to make it even. Now here I'm going to start taking the leaf. So let me tell you about this leaf die. It does curve kind of to the right. And I cut these on double-sided paper, not even thinking about it. But then when I started putting them down, I'm like, well, hey, I need some to go kind of curve to the right and curve to the left. So I flipped it over, and the colors were so good on the other side of the double-sided paper that I was able to use both sides of my dies. So if you're going to want these leaves to kind of go both directions, cut them on double-sided paper. And there you go. And this die is such a good die. I was able to layer 2 pieces of the cardstock paper and pass it through my machine. I use a Stampin' Up machine, die cutting machine, and I was able to roll it through forward and backward, and it cut through both pieces perfectly well. I didn't have to fight to get it out. So I ended up poking, I don't know, 15 or 18 of these little sets of leaves all around, and I flipped them. I cut them on 2 different pattern papers, so I ended up with 4 patterns when I flipped them back and forth. So that was a nice little surprise I had, that they were able to go either side, and then that way it gave me, leaves turning each direction. So once I get all of those stuck in there, I've still got a few more to go. Then we're going to add just a few more embellishments, and we'll be almost done with this. I'm really loving the perspectives and paper snips that are in this subscription. You need to go to BrambleFox.com and check out the subscriptions. There's the Fox Box and the Fox Box Plus. The Fox Box Plus is new, and it is a lot of bang for your buck. There's really good value in it. You get a set of perspectives, you get a stencil, and you get the paper snips in your box every time. Now, the dies were extra. They were not part of the set. I added those dies to go with this because I wanted to use the leaves. And honestly, I have trouble passing up a good die. So here I'm taking a little journaling block, and I'm trying to decide where it's going to go. I do journal off camera. Y'all don't need to watch me journal. And I'm adding some butterflies. I ended up adding a butterfly to the top left with a little sticker that's going to go below it that says things to remember. And then to the left of the picture there, I'm going to end up putting a circle cardstock circle that says love you. And I found a little word that says always and always. So I go back and forth. In a minute, you're going to see I can't decide, do I want it under the picture? And I end up going on top of the picture. So there I'm adding the things to remember. And it's just below that pretty little yellow butterfly. And here's the always and always. And I just thought that was so good. So here I'm trying to decide. I don't want it under there because then you're not going to be able to see it. And then it wasn't centered. So I just stuck it below the U on the love you. And I just made it a little layered embellishment. And I end up putting it on top of the picture on the corner of one of those frames with the leaf kind of sticking over and under it together. And I put a little piece of foam tape behind it to make it stand up. And then on the right, I will end up putting my little journaling square and I add a butterfly there. And I'm getting really close to being finished here. Going to turn those leaves around just to get them to follow. There's my finished layout. Again, this is the Bramble Fox September Fox box. There's the Priceless Moment Perspectives. I'm going to show you some close-ups of it. I thank you so much for watching this video. I would love for you to give me a thumbs up. You can follow me on YouTube as well at Melanie Hyatt and on Instagram at Melanie Hyatt. Leave any questions that you have below and I'll answer them, and I will link any products that I used below as well. I would be happy to hear or love to hear from you and be happy to answer any of your questions if you have them. Again, check out Bramble Fox, check out the subscription boxes, and thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.